What's good, everybody? This your boy, Bill Mahari here on episode 3 of Basketball Conversation here on MehariNation Sports Podcast. Salute to the entire LDBC. Salute to the greater basketball community. We got a good episode for you guys today. On a Friday evening. I know a lot of you guys are out, but if you're not, it's a good time to just sit back and chill and listen to me discuss basketball, my specialty. So, got a lot of good stuff that I want to talk about today. Um, we're going to discuss about the USA team, um, why the Brooklyn Nets should be pursuing Carmelo Anthony in the aftermath of Joe Johnson being signed to the Detroit Pistons. And as for historical uh, discussion, I will talk about the 1995 Eastern Conference Semifinals between the Indiana Pacers versus the New York Knicks, one of my favorite series growing up during the 90s. But with no further ado, let's get it on here. So, what I want to discuss about is the struggles of the USA basketball team. Okay. Now, they're not doing pretty well, to say the least. I mean, I think we're seeing shades of what happened in 2004, how the players are just not playing well. They're just not coinciding together. But when you look at this team per se, it's not really that good. You got three members of the Boston Celtics on your team, and they're clearly not playing well together. And reading from an article on Yahoo Sports, this is what Jerry Calendo had to say. He said, "I'll remember who didn't show up. I can only say, but you can't help notice and remember who you thought was going to go to war with and who didn't show up," said Jerry Colangelo, the managing director of USA Basketball. But let's just point out one big thing here about this USA team that I'm noticing here. Tomorrow they're going against Poland for 7th place in the FIBA championships. Now, they're already entered into next year's Olympics in Tokyo in 2020. So they don't have to compete in any other tournaments at this point. But right now, guys on the team like the Kemba Walkers, Chris Middleton, Harrison Barnes, Miles Turner, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum have not done the job for the USA basketball team. Let's see who's in the building right now. P Money, what's going on, brother? Welcome. Marquise Johnson, welcome to the channel. How are you doing today? Now, to continue this discussion, this USA team looks pathetic. They're just like they're a team right now there's no guy on the team that you fear that you can give the basketball to and say, take us to the promised land. There's no chemistry. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that this team is not talented. That's not the point. The point is that the construction of this roster was not that good. And when you have star players like the Anthony Davises that pulled out, James Harden, Bradley Beal, you know what I mean? It really, the USA team was basically handicapped to start out with. But also, the fact that you disrespected Carmelo Anthony, you didn't even include him on the team, is beyond disrespectful to me. Because, they have good talent, but they just didn't have guys that were on winning circumstances. You know what I mean? Brooklyn Child Boxing, what's going on, brother? How you doing? P Money says this was definitely one of the worst USA teams of all time. They have a lot of talent, but they didn't have guys that are winners on that team. I definitely agree. In fact, I think they make this make the 2004 team look like an all-star team. Now, compared to the 04 team to this team, boy, it's not looking good. And the big issue that's going to be coming into the Olympics next year is you got other international teams that are making their move right now. Australia, Lithuania, Greece, and Spain is going to be in the mix. All these teams right now, the international talent gap is starting to narrow down right now. The USA right now, if they don't get stars on that team to Tokyo next year, they're going to lose in the tournament round. Now, I expect them to get to the tournament round when it comes to Olympic time. But if you ask me, are they going to win gold again? I could tell you right now, based on how they performed, I don't think so. Unless something changes, I just don't see it to be possible. And you know what I mean? And how in the heck did you that you dismissed Kyle Kuzma with an injury, and then you allowed De'Aaron Fox to walk? Which right now I'm gonna tell you, De'Aaron Fox is going to be a star point guard in this league, and you let him walk. You know what I mean? Facts. The P Money says facts. That team was way better than this collection of players. Bagley, the third, De'Aaron Fox would have helped this team a lot. Agreed. Definitely agree. I think those two players, Marvin Bagley the third and De'Aaron Fox, they're going to be really good players for that Sacramento team. In fact, I'm going to say it right now. I bet you De'Aaron Fox is going to be an all-star, not this season, because I think it's going to be a bit tough, but in the next few years, he's going to be an all-star. And the fact that you let this man walk from the USA team really shows the incompetence of Greg Popovich. Now, I'm going to discuss about what Greg Popovich is, okay? Greg Popovich is a very good coach, okay? He's one of the all-time best coaches in the NBA, okay? The problem is he's being exposed because right now he's having a bit of an issue putting this team together and getting just forming those kind of relationships with players that he used to do, you know what I mean, back then. You know, the fact that Coach K walked out, Coach K retired from the team, and then Greg Popovich comes in. Right now, Greg Popovich is not really looking too good these days, you know. And I have to agree with Ticket TV said in comparison to Phil Jackson. Greg Popovich is overrated to me. You know, you won championships, yes, but you never won back to back. While Phil Jackson has three peats, okay, with Hall of Famers on it. Greg Popovich had Tim Duncan, he had Sean Elliott, he had David Robinson, he had Tim Duncan, Steven Jackson, Manu Ginobili on those teams. Also, who else did they had there? Bruce Bowen. And you're telling me you couldn't win back-to-back championships? Sorry, bro. You're not looking so good in these streets. You get what I'm saying? And the Kawhi stuff doesn't really help much either. Okay? Now, they need to either find they need to really reassemble this roster if they're going to have a chance to regain their dominant form as the top team in the world. Because the way they look right now, it's not looking good right now. All right. You know what I mean? P Money says he's definitely overrated. He's an excellent coach, but coaches are judged how many championships they get. Right. See, right now, the criteria of a great coach is slightly being changed in this era. Now it's just on how many wins you got, you know, how many, you know, times did you get to the finals, you know. Greg Popovich, you know what I mean? Again, he's had success in his career. He's got championships. The question is going to be, did he win back-to-back titles? And he said no. P Money says, Draymond says he's going to go to Tokyo. Well, I don't know if Draymond Green would be the solution to their problems, but that's a start. All right. Draymond Green. The one thing I can say about Draymond Green is he will make players work together, and he's going to put some structure to that team on the court, something that they're going to need right now, and some defensive tenacity, because the teams they lost to, both Australia and Serbia, they were pathetic. Those teams scored against them at will. All right. Brooklyn Child says Greg Popovich is his choose. I will respectfully disagree in regards to him being overrated. That's fine. No problem. I respect that, Brooklyn Child. Not a problem at all. I'm just saying, in my opinion. That's just my personal opinion, and I'm sure people have their own different opinion. No problem whatsoever. He also said, Brooklyn Child Boxing says Sacramento Kings will break out this season. I do agree. If they get off to a good start next season, this upcoming season, I think they could take one of the last playoff spots. They have a really good young team right now that they're building. So I hope that they do really make some good things out of it. But my point to you is, USA's got a lot to prove, and they got a lot to fix before the Olympics. All right. I know the teams that I think the teams that can beat the U.S. at this point: Greece, Australia, and Lithuania. The three teams that I can tell you right now off the bat that will beat the United States. All right, so they got a lot of work to do. So they got a lot of things to figure out before then, basically a good time for that. But in the meantime, they really got to get themselves together if they're gonna win gold once again. Now, let me get into the Carmelo Anthony stuff. But before I do that, let's give a little shout out to 78 Sports TV. Salute to the general, though, man. Always putting it down for the LDBC. Congratulations. And on Black Fight Fan TV on 300 episodes. They've been doing it for about a year, and it's great to see them, moving things out there. Salute to them. So let's check out in the chat here. P Money says, salute families. Sacktown is about to be on the map. I think people sleep on the Luke Walton coaching edition. The Kings have exactly what he needs as far as the pieces to run his offense. Okay. That's a good analysis. I can see that. Brooklyn Child says the Spurs have been a perennial playoff contender for 20 years with 5 championships. Right. But I'm saying is, and amidst of all those championship runs, did he win back-to-back? And the answer is no. He never won back-to-back. Now, I think he's a bit overrated in the sense that he never could put it together in terms of a back-to-back, but he's a great coach nonetheless. So I'm not saying he's a whack coach at all. I would never say that. That would make me look stupid. But my point is, Greg Popovich, to me, is basically in the upper echelon of coaches, but he's not above Phil Jackson or Red Auerbach. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so let's check out the chat real quick. The Spurs have been okay. I read that. P Money says, into Brooklyn Child Boxing, in comparison to a coach like Phil Jackson, I feel like he is. I don't place him in the echelon of coach. I think he's a tier below. Nothing to be upset about. Agreed. I see your assessment of that. Agreed. Now, I say to you that Greg Popovich was responsible in building the Spurs culture to what it is currently. Because you got to remember, there was a time in the 90s where the Spurs were a talented team, but they were soft mentally during the playoffs. You could push them, you could bang them around, you know what I mean? And when it came to adversity, they just didn't know how to handle it. And the perfect example was back in 1995. During that whole 94-95 season, the San Antonio Spurs won 62 regular season games. They were the top seed in the Western Conference, and David Robinson won the MVP. But what happened when he went up against in the Western Conference Finals against the defending champion Houston Rockets and the monster Akeem Olajuwon? You know what I mean? Olajuwon had his way. He averaged 35 points a game during that whole entire series, while Robinson averaged about 25 points a game with 12 rebounds, which is really outstanding numbers. But in comparison to what Akeem did, he fell short. And unfortunately, the Spurs got criticism for during the playoffs where they just could not step up to the plate and win those big critical moments before Greg Popovich asserted himself as coach and until Tim Duncan was drafted. Yep. I remember that 95 conference final. It was a masterpiece of post work by Akeem. Akeem did anything he wanted against him. I'm talking about jumpers, crossover moves, post-up moves, turnaround jumpers. He was so fluently creative. And listen, David Robinson had a really good series, but unfortunately, he couldn't figure out Akeem. You know what I mean? And it's not necessary that he just was getting dominated by. He still had his numbers, but when you're going against a great player like Akeem, you know what I mean? It was just he just missed. He just fell off the mark. He just fell short. When a great offensive player has it going, even the greatest of defense can't stop him. And David Robinson was doing everything he can to try to stop him, but Akeem Olajuwon was playing at an unbelievable level that very few players can go up to that level. You know what I mean? And until It wasn't until the draft pick of Tim Duncan where the San Antonio Spurs became the championship Spurs that you see today. You know what I mean? Without Tim Duncan, no championships with David Robinson or Greg Popovich. Facts. You know what I mean? The thing is this. I think that to me, that Greg Popovich right now is on the tail end of his coaching career, in my opinion. I think in a couple of years, he'll probably retire from coaching. You know, after what happened with the whole Kawhi Leonard situation, to me, I think that Greg Popovich is going to try to, stick it out for best he can until he sees the writing on the wall, in my opinion. Now, y'all hold on for 1 second. Okay, y'all, I'm back. So let's check out the chat real quick. P Money says, I don't think his philosophy is fading a bit, though. Well, they're still making the playoffs, but they don't have a player that can raise the level in the playoffs. He relies too much on older players. I agree with that. I do agree. I think that at times when Duncan and Parker were still there, they were still, helpful players, but they weren't in their prime. I think sometimes Greg Popovich relies on them a bit too much. He didn't go to the young, fresher legs enough, which really in result had him losing critical series, especially the last series of Duncan's career where he relied too much on the old tank of Tim Duncan and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker instead of riding the horse of Kawhi Leonard. That, to me, in my opinion, started the bit of the friction between those two men. So now I wanted to talk about the Carmelo Anthony situation. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the USA is going to regret not bringing in Carmelo Anthony. The way they disrespected him, all those times where Carmelo Anthony put in amazing numbers when he was playing for USA, you know, there's been some speculation that the Nets players are pushing management to go pursue Carmelo Anthony to play with the Brooklyn Nets. And I'll be honest with you, I think that the Brooklyn Nets, you know, should really heavily pursue Carmelo Anthony, considering that Durant is going to be out, for the entire season, unless if he recovers quickly than expected. Then you really need another scoring option off your bench or in the starting lineup too. I bet you right now the Warriors certainly would do regret not bringing in Carmelo Anthony because they could have really used him in the finals and in the playoffs too. So the thing is this. I think that Carmelo Anthony is still a guy that can really help any team in the NBA. And the fact that he's being blackballed because of stupid analytics is really an injustice to a guy that is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You mean to tell me that Jared Dudley with the Lakers is better than Carmelo Anthony? Are you serious? Have y'all been watching footages of Carmelo Anthony dominating against Danny Green, putting in major work, losing weight, getting into shape? I'm telling you right now, Carmelo Anthony deserves an opportunity to play in this league. And that these executives that are taking the words of Daryl Morey and basically, to me, I think a lot of it comes down to what happened in Houston and the fact that Mike D'Antoni really did not work well with Carmelo Anthony in terms of his system. Okay. So I think that Melo should have a chance to play in Brooklyn. He would be great for that team. But specifically, um, what he can bring. He knows how to create his own shot. He knows his spots on the floor where he can be effective, and also he can post up too. You know what I mean? He doesn't need that many shots at this point because he knows he's not going to get he's going to get a limited amount of shots. And just like he said in that interview on ESPN of last month, he's willing to accept a bench role if you just communicate that with him. And I think that situation in Houston, a lot of the miscommunication really was the beginning of the blackballing that's been going on with Carmelo Anthony. Okay, I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong. He never said anything controversial or hasn't done anything stupid, you know. But the fact that he's not being looked at by a lot of these teams in the NBA is really ridiculous. There's no reason why Carmelo Anthony shouldn't have a job in the NBA. Okay. Now, I also a little bit of a side story too before we move on. Um, for those of y'all that missed out on my video early this morning, um, former backup point guard Sean Livingston has confirmed his retirement from the NBA after 15 seasons. This was a guy that was a huge piece to the championship mystique of the Golden State Warriors. He was basically a valuable bench option for the team. You know what I mean? He really provided some good scoring and good leadership on the floor too. And keep this in mind as well. This was a guy that nearly, had his career ended in 2007 with that horrendous knee and leg injury. In fact, his leg was supposed to be amputated. His leg was this close. I mean, it was so damaged, it was supposed to be amputated. But through his courage, his will, and determination, he rehabbed himself and had a long career because of it. And now he's got 3 rings. So at least he can retire the game, with he can retire happy. You know what I mean? And I also checked out through various articles that the Warriors may bring him back, some sort of executive or positional role within the team. So he's not going to be, he's going to have some sort of role in the Warriors organization. So it's very classy of the Warriors to do so for a guy that, really has been nothing more of just pure class personified to the NBA. And it couldn't happen to a nicer guy. So salute to Shashan Livingston. Congratulations on a great career and wish you nothing but the best in retirement. So let me get back to the Melo discussion. So let me check out the chat. P Money said, agreed. I read that. Melo is going to be a monster. I wouldn't be surprised if he averaged about 17 points off the bench and possibly a 6th man of the year. That's my bold prediction. I think so too. I think that Carmelo Anthony, to me, it would be a tailor-made person off the bench. Now, I don't expect him to start immediately, okay? I think those days of him averaging 25 to 30 points a game is over now because you can't sustain that a lot during an 82-game season. There's only a specific amount of guys that can do that. But Melo is smart enough to know where to pick his spots on the floor to attack, to shoot the ball, and also to attack the mid-range area. He's a very smart scorer at this point of his career, because early on in his career, he would attack the basket. He would try to get to the free throw line and average about 5 to 8 free throws attempts a game. But, the one thing that Melo does very well, at this stage of his career is, pick his spots and not try to, stall the offense down. Okay. Now, if you put him in a good system where it is tailor-made to what he can do offensively, then he's going to succeed very, very well. Okay. So I hope that the Brooklyn Nets, give him an opportunity to try to, resume his career because he's not ready to retire. All right. He's still got plenty of years left in the tank. Okay. Now, I don't want to hear anything about the whole analytics thing or whatever because analytics can give you numbers and stats and percentages, but it doesn't measure the man's heart and the man's determination and desire to win. Okay. Now, the Rockets have been successful at what they've been doing, but to be honest with you, they haven't won a championship in big moments. So what does that say? Okay, Brooklyn Child Boxing said, "Have you spoke about how good the Knicks will be this season?" I was waiting for about a minute. You really want me to discuss good things about your Knicks? Okay, let's think about this. Well, your Knicks. I'll tell you. I'll give you this though. I'll be honest with you. I'm gonna cut the jokes. I don't think the Knicks are gonna be bad as I thought it would be before. I think RJ Barrett is gonna have an opportunity to show that he could take the reins as the main franchise player. But I've always been consistent about what my criticism about the Knicks. The Knicks will not go anywhere as long as James Dolan is still the owner of this team. And James Dolan, throughout his entire time as owner, has always found things to mess things up. Y'all know this, okay? Now, they do got some good pieces, and I think RJ Barrett is going to have a sensational rookie year, okay? I just hope and pray that the New York Knicks do not waste his years, just like what they did to Patrick Ewing and Carmelo Anthony. All right. They better not do that, because if they do, it's going to be a complete injustice. All right. RJ Barrett, I think that if he can just learn how to play smart and not try to take too many bad shots, you know what I mean? I think he can be really a successful player in the NBA. They better build something around the talents of RJ Barrett, because they don't got many chances in life as for franchise players in New York. And considering that the other team in the other side of town, Brooklyn, got, let's see, DeAndre Jordan, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant on their side. You know what I mean? And if they sign Melo, whoo, you do not want that. Okay, so I'll say this: the Knicks got a pulse, but that's all they have at this point. They need to capitalize on the talents of RJ Barrett and build something around that team. Okay, there. That's my nice assessment about the New York Knicks. All right. So I made you happy, Mr. Brooklyn Child. I seriously think Brooklyn Child says, I seriously think they can make the A spot. I'm really high on Mitchell Robinson. He'll be one of the best centers in the future. I hope so too. I think he's got good upside though. To me, I think he's got good upside, and if him and RJ Barrett can be a 1-2 punch for New York, I think they could make something happen. But I think right now the Eastern Conference, the lower seeds, you got a chance though, but the upper seeds right now is a bit of a lock race at this point between Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Philadelphia. Who else? Milwaukee, Philadelphia. God, what am I? God, I just gotta, man, I cannot think right now. Hold on 1 second, y'all. Okay, there we go. So we got Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Brooklyn. You know what I mean? I think those two teams are going to be in the mix, though, for any discussion to win championships. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. P Money says, I know you're a Knicks fan. Don't worry. Nothing. There's no problem at all. No problem at all. P Money says, I think RJ Barrett is in the absolute worst situation he could in the NBA. He needs to be with somebody that will hold him accountable. I like Mitchell Robinson's potential and Kevin Knox. Me too. You know what I mean? But again, I know I want to see the Knicks do well, but like I said, without the influence of James Dolan, it's going to be real bad. Listen, you can count on the New York Knicks just messing something up. Okay, how many times have this team had signs of, okay, we're moving in the right direction, and then whoop, back to mediocrity? It's like a loop. There's hope, letdown, hope, major letdown, hope, and massive devastation. Okay, so I think you got a chance with those three young assets, but they better build something good out of it, though. Because if they don't, it's going to be another lost season of New York Knicks basketball. So I hope your team does well, Mr. Brooklyn Child. I really do. I really do. I'll be right back. Let me get a drink real quick. Brooklyn Child says that's a fact. It's hard to be a Knicks fan, consistently losing for 20 years. It's not just a losing at all. It's the fact that James Dolan has been a guy that only cares about making money. He doesn't care about putting together a winning product. That's the problem. You know, the problem with the Knicks is that the Knicks historically, the Knicks historically have had good pieces and good teams, but something always goes wrong. Either if it's just bad management, either it's just incompetent direction being taken by James Dolan, or something else in between. So what's happening is that the Knicks right now, they just need to be sold to an owner that can have the strong vision to right the ship. And sadly, James Dolan doesn't appear to be a guy that's going to sell the team anytime soon. You know? Oh boy, there we go. So that's my concern about these Knicks. Okay, so you had Jeremy Lin, you had Lin Sanity, and then you allowed him to walk to Houston. You had Carmelo Anthony, you had Amari Stoudemire, but they ended up getting hurt. Actually, Amari got hurt. Then you had opportunities in the free agency class to sign LeBron James in 2010, and he ends up signing Miami. You had a chance to try to sign Kevin Durant, but you failed at that. So the Knicks historically have always found things to mess things up. And James Dolan is a guy that just cares about the money. He don't care about winning. And the fact that he disrespects the fans in New York, why should they go into one game in Madison Square Garden? For an owner that doesn't care about putting together a winning product, you know what I mean? It's just disgraceful. I mean, he flicks off at fans. He ridicules them. He writes letters to them saying that the Knicks don't need you. I mean, what is wrong with this guy? It's like losing is his new alcoholic drink. He loves drinking the success of losing. That's what I'm going to call it. The success of losing, made by James Dolan. That's a new phrase now. The drunk success of losing. That's what it is, Yep. So let's go ahead and look at the chat. P Money says the NBA is better when the Knicks are winning, but James Jones doesn't care about that. And Brooklyn Child said that's a fact. I read that. Brooklyn Child said that's a fact. P Money. He said what he did to Charles Oakley was disgraceful to me. Not just about Charles Oakley alone. This was a guy that ignores all the requests of New York Knicks fans. In fact, what did it for me was way back in 2004 when former Knicks broadcaster Marv Albert, had some critical things to say about how the Knicks were performing that season. And what did James Dolan do? He fired him. He fired the one of the most legendary broadcasters of the Knicks, who's been broadcasting names since the 70s. Okay, when he was the broadcaster for the last Knicks championship teams in 70 and 73. That's what did it for me. You know what I mean? So I had my issues with James Dolan way back then. Okay, after they made the Eastern Conference Finals, they didn't do anything to satisfy Ewing, who was on the downside. They still had a good team together with Sprewell and Houston and Johnson and Camby, but in reality, it just drives you crazy. It drives you crazy because you want an owner that's going to be strong enough to try to bring in people that will do the job and will try to have a strong vision to right the ship. And Knicks fans have been wanting to see Dolan sell the team, but it just will never happen. P Money said you don't disrespect one of your legends like that, and Brooklyn Child Boxing says Knicks fans have been wanting Dolan to sell the team for years. Agreed, me too. But until there's a strong owner that's going to give him the max money that's necessary to make Dolan sell the team, it's just not going to happen. Because the Knicks right now are one of the most richest franchises in all sports, and in spite of all their losing and their lack of success on the floor, the team still produces money for him. And at this point, that's all he cares about is just how much money that he's going to make with his franchise, because they live in the New York market. And you got people like myself that won't stop talking about these Knicks. So it goes around, it just goes around. But enough about that. Now my last segment is going to be about my favorite historical series. One of my favorite historical series. This is a segment where I talk about and analyze some of the series that I watch. Now, I have a collection of old NBA games in my flash drive that I just pop onto my laptop and I watch them freely at my own free time. Now, this week, I watched the whole series of the 1995 Eastern Conference Semifinals between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. And Mr. Brooklyn Child Boxing, I know it's going to be a bit of a heartbreak for you. So, feel free to, close your ears if you don't want to hear this. But that series in 95 was a climax of these two rivals between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Now, there was two sides to this. You got the New York Knicks, who were the Eastern Conference champions at the time, that were on the cusp of a championship a year ago and fell short. And you got the Indiana Pacers, an up-and-coming team out of the Central Division from the Midwest that always got in the Knicks' way, but has been railroaded by the Knicks every time they met in the playoffs. That 95 series was a huge climax. It had all the drama, all the historical moments you asked for. He said it's all good, man. I've been hearing the Knicks ain't shit all my life. You're good, man. You're totally good. So, game one, I tell you right now, game one of that series was fantastic. Okay, particularly one of the greatest like final seconds of NBA history. If you don't remember, the Knicks were up by 6 with about 15.9 seconds left to play. Okay. Now, most of the fans in the Garden have already left, except for Spike Lee. Okay. Most of the fans have left. So everyone assumed that the Knicks were just going to go up 1-0 into that series, and the Pacers were just about to be, going to take this L and move on to game 2. But no, it didn't happen. Miller hits the 3 to cut the lead to 3. And on the inbounds play, Anthony Mason inbounds the basketball, and then Greg Anthony is supposed to get the inbound pass, but then he trips and gets accidentally pushed by Reggie Miller, no foul call, and then Anthony Mason, in his own haste, inbounding the ball to Reggie Miller, who steps back, drills the 3 to tie the ball game. And I kid you not, everybody in the Garden just stood there in just complete shock. It's like a bomb just went off in the Garden. Fans that were still in the arena couldn't believe what just happened, that the Knicks just choked away the lead. But then accidentally, Sam Mitchell for Indiana fouls John Starks, and John Starks gets to the free throw line for 2 free throws to put the Knicks ahead, and John Starks choked. He missed both free throws, and then Ewing had a chance for the putback. He missed it, and then Reggie Miller gets to the rebound. He got fouled by Anthony Mason, and then Reggie Miller hits both those free throws to give the Pacers a lead and stole game 1. Now, I remember that moment as a kid. Just I couldn't believe what I saw. Okay, nothing nothing climaxed to that moment when Reggie Miller stole the ball and then stepped behind the 3-point line to tie the ball game. Now, that takes tremendous guts and this willpower to do something like that. Because your natural instinct after you steal the inbound pass is to go to the basket for a layup and try to get an and one. But Miller, being the 3-point assassin as he is, caught the basketball, had the presence of mind to turn around, run back to the 3-point line, and hit the three. Hey, Muhammad is the one. How you doing? He said, come on, Mehari. Why are you taking me back to those painful years? Come on, man. I'm the basketball historian. I love discussing this stuff. And, it was one of my favorite series during the 90s, man. So, it's always good to reflect back. But after that game one, the tone was set. Okay. Now, as you guys remember, most Knicks fans remember, Patrick Ewing was battling through a calf injury, a left calf injury. It was basically strained. He had no elevation, he had no lift, and he was essentially struggling while Rick Smits had his way against Patrick Ewing. You know what I mean? Then the Pacers were up 3-1 in that series. But kudos to the Knicks. They battled back to force a game 7, which included the game 5 where Ewing hit the game-winning shot, but he basically took about 3 extra steps before he took the jump shot. So, I mean, it had its own twists and turns and just shocking moments, but it was a great series. Then you climaxed into game 7, which both the Knicks and the Pacers really went at each other to the limit. It was a close game that the Pacers basically controlled throughout until the Knicks almost stole it. But now we're going to get into the most painful moment in Knick history. Now, if for those Knicks fans that are in the lot and they're in the chat that don't want to hear this, I suggest close your ears for what I'm about to say. Okay? So the Knicks, with 5 seconds remaining, had, the New York had the chance to tie the ball game. It was 97-95. Now, Ewing caught the inbound pass at the top of the circle, and he was guarded by Antonio Davis. Now, he spanned around from the double team and drove to the basket. Okay? He had an open lane to the basket with a chance to tie the ball game. Now, if he had healthy legs, he would easily drove it down the lane and going for the quick dunk to tie the ball game. But since he had the calf injury and couldn't elevate to dunk the ball, he had to try to lay it up, and he drove the ball through the lane, took one big step, a legal step this time, and just laid it up with the right hand. But in his haste, he felt that he was going to have his shot blocked. So in his haste, it influenced the trajectory of the shot. And then when the ball sailed over the rim, it hit the back of the rim, and then it bounced off the back iron, off the front rim, and it missed off the mark. And when that happened, I kid you not, I felt like the crowd just stood there like, oh, just the complete, oh, and just complete shock. And sadly, the Knicks lost the game, lost the series, and it was the end of the Pat Riley era. And sadly, what I was told by a lot of the other Knicks fans is that a lot of Knicks fans lost confidence and faith in Patrick Ewing after that series. But the counter argument is this: they would never been in a 7-game series if it wasn't for Patrick Ewing's performances in games 5 through 6, with the game-winning shot, the 25 points, and 11 rebound performance in game 6 in Indianapolis. Okay, so Ewing always played with his heart and soul on the line every time he stepped onto the basketball court. It's just that he played in an era where he just didn't get the luck. He just didn't get the breaks that he needed. He didn't get the lucky bounces. And plus, you're going against the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan, right in front of you, So, unfortunately, Knicks fans, even today, I know Brooklyn Child respects Ewing. I know Muhammad is the one respects Ewing too. The thing is, a lot of other Knicks fans don't give Patrick Ewing the respect that he deserves. Yes, he didn't win a championship, but you can't tell me he didn't try his hardest out there to try to get that championship. that was just the saddest time. Every time that Ewing was just close to getting to that championship, there's always something that was always in the way. 93, they were up 2-0 against the defending champion Bulls and lost 4 straight. And then in the 94 finals, they were up 3-2, and John Starks was unconscious and had a chance to win the game in the championship, but got rejected by Olajuwon. And then in 95, Ewing had the missed layup in Game 7, that ended the season, and probably just lost all the chances to get to a championship. And to me, that was just a climax series. And Charles Smith said it best on the ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on that series. He said that missed the basket basically put the lid on the basket for all of our careers moving forward. He definitely was right, because Charles Smith led the team halfway through the next season. Pat Riley moved on to Miami, and the team went into a transitional phase while the Pacers, made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and fell short to the Orlando Magic. So it was just a climax to the great rivalry between the Knicks and the Pacers. They met each other. They would meet each other another 3 more times in the later 90s and the early 2000s. But those series in the through 93 through 95 were the best series that you could ever ask for. All the intensity, the emotion, the controversy, the great performances, the clutch moments, that rivalry had it all. And what's going to be remembered in Knicks lore is that missed layup in the Game 7. Just, if I was told that many people in the Garden just were in just complete shock. It's just, you just couldn't believe it. You felt like a pen dropped into that building. Just stunned silence when Patrick Ewing missed that layup. So that was one of my favorite series, and certainly a series that I will never, ever forget for as long as I live. And for people that study the game of basketball will absolutely tell you that series was probably the best series of the 1995 NBA playoffs. Bar none. So let's go ahead and check out the chat. Brooklyn Child Boxing says, the worst time for me was the Larry Brown era. Nothing was worse than that. Well, when you had Isaiah Thomas as your executive, it's going to be real bad. Nitty G, what's going on, sister? How you doing? Brooklyn Muhammad is the one says, Brooklyn Child, word. Brooklyn Child says that Miami series sticks out as well. Oh, yeah. Those Miami series were wars. Absolute wars. And the funny thing is, both Miami and New York were basically mirrors of each other. They played the same style, same play, same sets, same personnel. Those battles through 97 through 2000 was intense and brutal basketball as it could come. And you know what I mean? So that 97 series when the Knicks were up 3-1, but the damn suspensions ruined everything. I was hoping we were going to get a rematch of the Bulls and the Knicks in the 97 conference finals. That didn't happen. Thanks to stupid E.J. Brown flipping Charlie Ward. You kidding me? Ridiculous. Nitty G says, remember in 94, we would have beaten the Knicks if that clown A-word referee wouldn't have called that bogus foul on Pippen. I know. Nitty G, I'll tell you right now, I still have PTSD over that call. That stupid MFer Hugh Hollins calling that foul on Scottie Pippen on Hubert Davis. You know what? I'm going to tell y'all something. Before I do, let me get the drink real quick, because I got to tell this story about y'all, about that series. Hold on. Okay. The game, I think, is on YouTube, so y'all can go ahead and check out that game. Who was your team, Abil? The Chicago Bulls. Now, when I was a kid, I watched that game. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Bulls had their opportunities to close out that game, but they just didn't seal the deal. But that last possession, to me, is the most ridiculous possession I've ever seen in my life. Okay? The fact that you call that foul after the ball was already in the air, which you didn't even direct it, it didn't even affect the shot. It's the worst call you would ever make in a game. Now, there are obvious calls that you got to call, even if it's down the final seconds. But Hugh Hollins messed that up in a big way, and even through his retirement, he still showed no regrets of that call. I mean, it was the most garbage, most ridiculous call in the history of NBA basketball. Oh my God. I just wanted to rip my hair off. I had the courage to watch the game again on YouTube, because I knew at some point I had to let this go. But oh my God, when I watched that final possession when it happened, I nearly wanted to rip my shirt off of my shoulders. I mean, it's just oh my God, it was so aggravating. How do you call that a foul when the ball was already in the air and Hubert Day was already done with the shooting motion, and you still call that a shooting foul? Get out of here with that. Oh my God, it was so I never I never was this mad in my life until that moment. It's kind of like when 78 talks about how he still can't come to grips of Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas, because 78's favorite fighter of all time is Mike Tyson, and he still can't get over Mike Tyson getting knocked out by Buster Douglas. That was my Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas moments. Listen, we win that game, we beat the Knicks again in 6. Okay, they was not going to beat the Chicago Bulls in the Chicago Stadium. All right, I'm sorry. Even without Michael Jordan, we were still the better team, and we got robbed by that idiot Hugh Hollins. Even though God rest his soul because he died, but still, to hell with Hugh Hollins for the rest of his life, because that was some complete garbage. Still something that I can't get over to this day. So. Okay, let me just calm down now. Let me just calm down. Okay, now I'm over with. Now I'm over with that rant. So, what was that again? Oh yes, that Heat series was it was basically physical basketball. The games were low scoring, and it was all in the 80s. In today's NBA, 80 points is you could combine 3/4 of basketball, but in the Knicks and Heat days, that was basically the full game. You know what I mean? Stay ready boxing, my brother. Salute, my homie. Hold on 1 second. Let me do something for you. There you go. Stay ready. You've been wrenched up, and Mr. Brooklyn Child Boxing. Let me give you a wrench. There you go. You just been wrenched up. Both of y'all brothers have been wrenched up. There you go. So that was my favorite series of one of my favorite series in the 90s. Now, the way I would rank them in terms of my favorite rivalries in the 90s, the Bulls and the Knicks are my number one favorite, bar none. Indiana, New York would be number 2, and New York and Miami would be number 3. And my fourth favorite rivalry of the 90s is the let's see. It would be a good rivalry back then. I mean, the Utah Jazz and the Houston Rockets. That would be my fourth best rivalry of that period too. But I'm telling you right now, we had rivalries we had teams that always met up each other in the playoffs. You don't see that anymore. You don't see that passion. You don't see that intensity in the playoffs anymore, because the NBA has stripped the emotional side of basketball now. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I can't get over the fact that you got referees who are so PC of how they try to approach the game that sometimes they don't let the game, they don't allow players just to play the game. That the referees have to be the ones to control everything, and it ruins the flow of the game. And I hate that. So the one thing I can appreciate about the 90s is that the referees had more leniency and would call real fouls when it's necessary, and when to stop the fighting and when to stop the BS from happening. But the referees right now are so PC of what they do that it's really killing, the flow of the game, because of the rule changes they always keep implementing. There's no good rivalries in basketball anymore. There's not. I'm sorry. dismiss me with the Cavaliers and Warriors rivalry. It's not a rivalry. It was never a rivalry. Never has, never will be. Ever. So dismiss me with that. The real rivalries are the Celtics and the Lakers. Okay. Though that's a rivalry. Okay. The 90s, you had the Bulls and the Knicks. You had the Pacers and the Knicks. You had the Heat and the Knicks. You had the Pacers and the Bulls. You had the Rockets and Sonics. You had the Jazz versus the Jazz versus the Rockets. The Lakers versus the Jazz. The Lakers and Spurs. You had all sorts of rivalries that all implemented had all serious championship implications on it, with great players that didn't want to team up with each other, that wanted to beat each other. That's what I miss so much about that era of basketball. We don't see that anymore. And it's a total shame because a lot of these kids that talk about that those guys in the 90s were overrated, try to put your favorite player in there and let's see what they try to do during that period with the same rules of hand checking, physicality, just basically all physical defense. Let's see how they perform in that time, and then come back and talk to me. So that's just about it as it is. So I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap this up. So, but thank y'all for tuning in to the third episode of Basketball Conversations. I'll be back next Friday night with another conversation in hand. But tomorrow, I will also debut a boxing talk on my channel. We're going to discuss all sorts of stuff around boxing tomorrow at 3 p.m. Central Time. So y'all stay tuned in for that. Make sure to share this live stream and smash the like button on the way out. So this has been Abil Mehari representing Basketball Conversations on MehariNation Sports Podcast. Salute to the entire LDBC, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody.